Well, we have a few things to discuss, I think. A few things we need to catch up on in these weekly videos. So let's start with where I think that we actually left off when we were sort of talking on the more current state of affairs. And that was actually the Copa del Rey match, Real Madrid losing 3-2 to Albacete. Obviously, the last video that we made to this regard was really after the Supercopa and then Xabi Alonso being let go and Arbeloa taking over. So actually, I think it was Wednesday last week in which Real Madrid played against second division team Albacete. Albacete, who were just a few points above the relegation zone. So in really the last places of the second Spanish division, La Liga High Promotion. And yeah, there's a few things to dissect there. I think that game obviously got a lot of attention because, well, it's not a common thing to happen, especially in Spain. You always expect Real Madrid, Barcelona, the top teams to always make it to the semifinals at least. There are a few moments in history, for example, the Alcorconazo, or when they lost to, I think it was Alcoyano a few years ago, or when against Cadiz they played with Denis Cheryshev. And obviously he was he wasn't registered to play that game, but they lined him up anyway, so he was ineligible to play, and they had to forfeit that afterwards. So yeah, basically Arbeloa's first game going to, it's in 90 minutes anything can happen, but you would expect Madrid to win that game. And he brought a lot of young players. He also left a lot of big names at home, like Bellingham, for example. He actually stayed. So it was a lot of players from the academy. And yeah, it was a 3-2 loss. What I thought was interesting when I was watching that game was really that you felt that Albacete was actually taking command of the game. One of Real Madrid's best players who's showing up, coming up clutch is Gonzalo. He really plays with the heart and spirit that the Real Madrid fans want to see. And yeah, but it ended 3-2, and it was a beautiful goal by Yefte, the 32-year-old striker of Albacete. I think it was the 94th minute when the game was going to end in the 95th. And it was a really beautifully well-placed goal. I was wondering where the Madrid defense was there. So obviously, terrible first game for Arbeloa, but I think it really shows, where they are as well, just the gravity of the job he has at hand, and that it isn't just down to Xabi Alonso, of course. However, then on the weekend, Madrid won 2-0 against Levante, and I think the big story there was really the booing that really took place the whole game, even after they scored both goals in the second half, after Arda Güler started to pull the strings in midfield. It was especially the booing towards select players. Those were Vini and Camavinga. Honestly, it's not a nice thing to see, but for the first time in 20 years, you had what you in Spanish call la pañolada. Now, la pañolada is when you take out the white handkerchief, or the white napkin, handkerchief basically, and you wave like this. Usually it means that you're unhappy with what's going on. And for the first time, there were also screams against, chants against Florentino as well, who usually comes out unscathed in these situations. But they got the 3 points, and are now just 1 point behind Barcelona, which we'll get to, who actually lost to Real Sociedad yesterday. You can sort of see the green patches, as they say in Spain, of what Arbeloa is trying to implement. You see the players are playing with a bit more freedom, a bit less shackled by the tactical rigidness that we saw from Xabi Alonso. But what I wonder is how sustainable or unsustainable is the situation with Vinicius. Obviously, they are in talks to, renew his contract. Obviously, he's on one of the biggest contracts in world football. Now there's talk, will he want to stay? He was really left crying after the game. I have to say it was horrible to watch, to see someone get booed like that. But the Bernabeu, it's usually what they say, they kind of speak their truth, and obviously with everything they want, they're literally still in the Champions League, and they're well placed there. They're just 1 point behind Barca in the league, so that really shows that that's a club with the highest demands in the world, the most demanding fan base, and obviously that's what's going on. So it'll be very interesting to follow that now. Obviously now the Champions League, that's their favorite trophy, of course. That's where Real Madrid comes alive. It'll be interesting to see if Arbeloa will build on what I would say was an impressive second half victory in the league against Levante. Which brings us to Barca. So Barca's week was very much, I would say, they got the job done with a very professional performance against Racing Santander, who are the leaders of the second division, and they played incredibly well. El Sardinero. It's last time we played them was in 2012. Racing Santander, obviously a staple of the first division in Spain. Obviously now the last couple of years, or I think over a decade, they haven't been in the first division, but you can obviously see that that's where a club like that belongs. They played incredibly well. Barca did what they had to do, and they really we had a really strong lineup as well. Basically all stars playing, and obviously given Barca's bench depth right now, we were able to bring in players like Rafinha, etc. And then in the end we sealed the deal. But at 1-0 in like the 90th minute, there was a moment where the striker Lozano from Santander had the chance to just square it to the other attacker. He would have been alone on goal, but he decided to shoot and he missed. But also a few moments before, he did actually score a 1-on-1. And that was ruled offside, so I guess he thought he could do it twice. But had he done that, it would have been 1-1. We would have gone to extra time, and honestly, I don't know what would have happened there. But I'd like to call it a professional performance from us. So I'm really happy that Barca managed to do that. We didn't want any upsets, and we had the warning from Real Madrid the day before. But it was really interesting to see how Flick really played his starting team. And then on the weekend, which was actually yesterday, at the time of recording, we lost to Real Sociedad. I have to say, it's been the first time, I think, this season where I've been properly irritated at a game, like proper angry. I've really calmed down now when I watch football and how I talk about football, but I have to say I was really angry. I was feeling like I wanted to blame the ref. I wanted to get angry at the players as well for just such. But obviously we come from an 11-game winning streak. The last game we lost was on the 26th of November against Chelsea. And since then we had 11 straight wins, and I think 6 of those games in a row we didn't even concede. So I have nothing to worry about. I have to say it was one of the best games we played yesterday. The first 15 minutes, Lamine was getting so much space on that left side, only being covered by Sergio Gomez, obviously formerly of Manchester City, and it was just really an incredible first 15 minutes. If Dani Olmo had just obviously had a bit more millimetrical precision, and we would have been winning. And I think we, in the whole game, we hit the post 3 times, and we hit the post I think 3 or 4 times, and we actually had 3 disallowed goals. And therein lies the frustration, obviously more with the team, but with the referee as well. I don't like talking about referees. I don't think it's a good look on anybody. Without them, there's no football. To be honest, I love them and what they give the game. I just feel like this referee especially, he's one where, especially when we play with Barca, it just feels like we can't speak to him, and Frenkie de Jong echoed that sentiment after the game. And Flick did as well. And it's very rare for Barca to talk about the referees. And we don't want to be talking about the referees. I just feel that what is VAR doing, with those millimetrical decisions? So it was like Lamine's goal in one of the 3 disallowed goals. Lamine was literally 1 millimeter offside. And I just wonder, is that where we're going with football? Is that really what we want to be doing? We've seen a lot of this going on everywhere, especially in the Premier League as well, these millimetrical decisions. And I remember last year as well in their stadium, we actually lost, and also millimetrical decision, the toe of Lewandowski was offside. We would have won that game otherwise, or at least tied it. And it's frustrating. I really remember that. And I'm wondering, is that where we're going with VAR? I don't think that that's the aim of the offside rule. I don't think that the advantage was that clear. Lamine got into the space, and he obviously then no, it was actually for the penalty that he was going to get. But either way, really not a fair decision. And then the other offside where Lamine scored, I'm really wondering, can the lines be drawn? There's so much being covered. Can we really see the foot of the other defender? So just a few things there. But to be fair, Sociedad also had a goal disallowed. We didn't take our chances. But I actually left that thinking that was one of the best games we've played. So I think it doesn't worry me as much. But we have to say, all of the crisis we talk about Real Madrid, they're 1 point behind us. So Barca, we really need to make sure that we don't lose track of that. But I really have to say we played very well. And then actually when we started bringing in, I mean, breadth of talent we brought in. We brought in Rashford, Lewandowski, Joao Cancelo, and actually it disrupted the game a bit. I think what worried me a bit as well was the fact that we conceded the 2-1 right after scoring the 1-1, right from kickoff. It was beautiful from Real Sociedad. They did everything right. Matarazzo is a great coach. I know him well from his time in Germany, from his time with Stuttgart especially, and it's good to see that he's getting his done such a big classic traditional club in Spain as well, that really should be pushing for Europe, not fight in the relegation zone. That's Real Sociedad. And then we actually had another situation with Barca, which is the draw story. They just turned 18, had a rescission in his contract. So for 6 million, he could buy out his own contract, or another club could buy it. Obviously, Barca wanted to negotiate, one of those massive deals that we do with all of the La Masia pearls, as we call them, las perlas de la Masia. Joe was definitely one of those players. He's been in the dynamic of the first team this season. He's very exciting. He's from Galicia, been with Barca since 2022. He's a La Masia boy. And he even was starting against Atletico Madrid. He's had 5 games this season, was in the preseason as well. He actually went straight from not the Barca Atleti, which is a Barca B, but actually from the team below that, which is usually how you'd like to look at the U19s in a traditional European sense. And he actually went straight from them to the first team without really going through the reserve team, which is the Barça Atleti, which is now in the 4th division, which is usually how it goes. And it just seems that he was perhaps a bit impatient. I read a lot of analysis on this. And I'm really upset to see him go. He really was exciting. He's somebody who could play as an attacking midfielder, left winger, and central midfielder. Incredibly versatile, La Masia spirit. And the games he played was very exciting. It seems like PSG are going to, or in the process of buying him, all of this will become official. But yeah, it seems that he does not want to stay. Of course, the criticism there is, should he stay and fight for position? I think we've seen that not everybody can be a Pau Cubarsí or a Lamine Yamal. When they at 16, 17 are starting for Barca, and then at 18, 19 have 100 games for Barca each. Obviously that's not really, those are just exceptional talents, but that's not really how these things usually work. And we can see this in examples like Marguillo, who went to Chelsea when he was 18, or also a few years ago when Ilaix Moriba went to RB Leipzig, and he himself has stated that was a mistake. For me, it's not about saying it's a mistake that they've left. Honestly, I'm pretty frustrated at the fact that we lose another Pearl, who we invested a great deal in. But if that is his decision, then I'm sure he'll be actually getting a lot of playing time at PSG, because Luis Enrique does use young players. And I think that's what frustrates me, is that I know exactly, or we've seen just glimpses of how excellent he can be, and playing for Barca at 17 against Atletico Madrid. We have normalized these things, but it's not so normal, is it? So it's a shame about Dro. And then in other news, we also had the Manchester Derby. Obviously, always keeping a keen eye on the Premier League, the best league, and especially on Pep. As a Barca fan, we love Pep, but in general, just for the football, I have to say, very happy for Man U and all of my friends who are Man U fans under Michael Carrick. They really played. I think it's about that they really just played in a very traditional United way. So they attacked from the flanks, they were solid in midfield, and they were playing forward thinking. I was so happy to see Kobbie Mainoo play. I mean, obviously his breakout season, and then playing the final and pulling the strings in the Euros final 2024 against Spain, and then to not getting basically any playing time with Amorim, and now playing 1 or 2 games and already showing that he's up at the races. It was incredible to see Mainoo play there with the experience of Casemiro, and then Dorgu, the Danish left winger. I think he's playing really great on the left wing, and then of course Mbemo, Bruno Fernandes, just players playing in their positions again. We really see Bruno Fernandes now playing more, not so in that deep line playmaker role, but more free in that sort of attacking midfielder role. And Carrick just really went back to the basics, and sometimes that's all you need. Obviously, again, I say I'm not a tactician, but it was a really interesting game, and I have to say I worry for Man City. First of all, they look lethargic, they look tired, and obviously have many injuries, but they're also buying many players. Semenyo, after scoring a midweek against Newcastle, he had 1 goal and then a second one disallowed, which shouldn't have been disallowed. similar situation to the offside Barca had, with VAR. But yeah, let's not discuss VAR too much. But I think it's the first time in Guardiola's reign, or at least in the last 4 or 5 years, where I wonder, even if Arsenal is dropping little points, they're not losing, but they're dropping points. Usually that's when Man City would pounce. They love the chase, and usually now is when they get at their strongest, February, March, April, and then they end up winning. I'm wondering, do they still have the players with that sort of winning gene in them? You'd expect to be seeing a bit more from Foden. You would definitely be also expecting Bernardo Silva, but he just seems to be past it. He seems to be playing more aggressively now, which is interesting. He was always such a floating player, so beautiful to watch, really. One of my favorite players to watch, Bernardo Silva. It just seems a bit disjointed, like they're kind of transitioning and rebuilding by, obviously they spent 80, 60, 70, 80 million on players. But they also in the middle of the season now, they've actually signed Mark Gahey as well, which I think is a stellar signing. I think it's interesting how they got him from Liverpool. Obviously, he was going to go to Liverpool last summer. That didn't work out. Now Crystal Palace seems to be in a bit of a disarray as well. Glasner looking like he's talking so that he can get his severance pay, after what he said. And obviously, Eze leaving in the summer, and the team just sort of... how should I say, unraveling. It was always clear to go he was going to go. He gets to go now for 20 million. However, if he had a long-term contract, his value would be anywhere from 80 million upwards. At 25 years old, he's England's best centre-back, in my view. When John Stones is fit, it's John Stones, but Mark Gahey plays incredibly, and I think he would go to any team in the world if he could. The top teams are all looking for him. So let's see if he will now help, given that Guardiola is out even until the beginning of next season, and Ruben Diaz has been irregular, and Stones obviously very injury prone. Kusanov, not that player who they thought he would be. There's even talks that they might sell him, the 21-year-old from Uzbekistan. And then Elaine, who's playing really good, the academy product. However, is he enough to sustain a title push? Turkey excellently going forward, but it's also a lot to wonder, is he doing enough going back? It just seems a bit disjointed. So excellent performance by Man City, really Man United matching the intensity that Old Trafford has been yearning for. However, really have to say that Man City don't look like the Man City of old, of Pep over the last years, that can really go for that title push, and it's looking like it's Arsenal's to lose. It really seems like Arsenal doesn't have much competition. It seems like their only competition will be themselves, and a few friends who are really good Arsenal fans. Really few really great friends who are really Arsenal fans their whole lives, and who barely can remember what it's like to win the Premier League. So for that, it would be interesting. Also, someone sort of new, even though it's one of the big traditional clubs in England, one of the top four originals, as we'd say, and also their squad depth is incredible. So interesting to see what's going on there. And then just rounded off the Africa Cup of Nations, managed to catch a glimpse of that after the Barca match. I managed to rewatch it. Incredible scenes, never seen anything quite like it. Congratulations to Senegal. I have to say those were the two best teams in that tournament, and it was a great quality of football. The teams playing in top, the players, both teams playing in top teams. Obviously surreal situations, everything that went on. From taking the Senegal team off the pitch to then coming back on, to the Panenka penalty in the last minute that would have won them the trophy. There was literally 20 seconds left of that game, to various other sub-stories occurring all over. It really was surreal. Apparently the story's not over. Apparently the Moroccan FA is now taking legal action. So it's very interesting to see what will happen there. From a purely footballing perspective, though, it was a beautiful AFCON. Really enjoyed it. Glad that we could watch it as well here, and that it becomes mainstream to watch it. I remember on Eurosport watching that always, the likes of Ivory Coast, Zambia, Egypt always winning, when Zambia won it that one time. And the legendary Ivory Coast teams with Drogba, etc. Ghana, of course. It's just I love the Africa Cup of Nations, and I really try to capture games when I can. And the timing was very good as well. Now, obviously being in Morocco, so congratulations to Senegal. But I don't think we've heard everything there. Otherwise, I would say those are sort of the main stories for now. We're heading into a Champions League week, and I look forward to talk more in my next video about how the week is going. Look out also, for my other videos are a bit longer that aren't on what's happening during the weeks or during the days, more daily updates, but really more sort of overarching topics, I'd be really happy to hear from you. Thank you so much. This is Planeta Joachim. Take care.